2024 has been a time of ups and downs for the Dragon Ball franchise. From Sparking Zero and Daima coming soon, to the indefinite hiatus of the manga, and the tragic passing of Akira Toriyama. Never in my 15 or so years of being a Dragon Ball fan has the future been so uncertain. But while the future remains uncertain for now, let's take a moment to enjoy the moment that we're in. Sparking Zero and Dragon Ball Daima are less than a week away from me recording this, so let's just take a minute and embrace the calm before the storm. So ever since Dragon Ball Super ended, the franchise has been in a really weird position regarding future releases. As you already know, the manga kept continuing well after the anime, and we've gotten two canon movies since then, that being Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Super Superhero. To this day, I still hate saying that name, but that's the name. It's been in a really weird place over the last year, with the Dragon Ball Super Superhero adaptation taking up a majority of the time and us being left on that massive Black Frieza cliffhanger for the last 2 years now. It's hard to say what exactly is going to be happening to the franchise moving forward, especially with Akira Toriyama's passing. And while all the other side media, like the video games and movies, are still generating a lot of money, it's going to be interesting where things will go after the release of Sparking Zero and Dragon Ball Daima. But while things are uncertain as of now, I'm excited that we have Dragon Ball back. While Dragon Ball Daima may not be what a lot of people were wanting, a lot of people expected the Super 2 so we can get the other two manga arcs, I for one am excited to see what exactly Toriyama was cooking, because a lot of people have been saying the same things when Broly came out, like, oh, they're just gonna be rebooting Broly again, how original. But that ended up being probably the best Dragon Ball movie we've ever gotten. And while Superhero also did its fair share of revising ideas, it didn't like completely rip off the Cell Saga. It kind of did its own thing with it, well, with the exception of like Gohan's arc. I feel like that was kind of rushed, but something we'll get into for another day. But it did great things for characters like Piccolo and Pan, and great to see like those characters really well utilized in the story again. And the manga prelude with Goten and Trunks was also a pretty good thing too. I enjoy watching like Dragon Ball characters like kind of be goofy and just, you know, live in the absurdity of their world without, you know, death looming over their shoulder every 2 seconds. But with Daima, it looks like it's going to be Toriyama's take on the whole Dragon Ball GT kind of concept. What if, you know, Goku was a kid again, except now it's going to be like the whole cast, and it's going to be taking place in the Demon Realm, and we're going to be exploring more of that. And as a huge Dragon Ball Xenoverse fan, if you can't already tell, I'm really excited to see where the story is going to go with that. Are they going to bring in elements of Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Online, or are they going to do like a completely original thing? And how is this going to tie back into the main series as a whole? Another thing I'm very excited about when it comes down to Daima is, from all the trailers we've seen and from what a lot of people in the industry are saying, this is probably going to be some of the best 2D animated Dragon Ball content we will ever see. And me personally, I was especially missing that, considering Superhero was all 3D animated with the exception of some scenes done by Kubota. And while I think Superhero looks fine the way it is, I've always been a massive 2D animation Dragon Ball fan. I don't hate the 3D, but I feel like when you do Dragon Ball in 3D, you can really just save that for the games. I wasn't like the biggest fan of how Superhero kind of just did a 3D movie. I mean, kudos to them for trying something new, but I feel like they didn't exactly innovate on the 3D medium as much as like you could have, like, say for example like a Spider-Verse or Puss in Boots did, especially with like how like grand and scale Dragon Ball fights could be. I feel like they could have done that a bit better. But this isn't a superhero critique. I'm just saying why I'm excited for Daima. And speaking of 3D things and 3D video games, everybody and their mother is excited for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, what could very well be the biggest Dragon Ball release we might ever see in our lifetimes. People have been clamoring for a Tenkaichi 4 for many years now. And I still very remember like the day of that announcement trailer just breaking the internet. People were just like, oh my god, like we are so back. I even like, you know, had to reach out to like my family members and stuff, like, oh my god, we're so back. Like, you know, like, so the fact that it's finally coming out this week for everyone to enjoy again, hopefully everything releases fine. They didn't do any beta testing, so I'm hoping the netcode is good. I mean, at this point, anything is better than what Xenoverse can offer over the last 10 years. And that's not a dig at Xenoverse. I made a whole short going into why I think like Sparking Zero isn't gonna kill Xenoverse or none of the other Dragon Ball games. If you want to watch it over at the Modding Corner or whatever channel you're watching this on. Sparking Zero seems like such a massive step in the right direction for Dragon Ball games. Not only do we have beam struggles back, clashes, destructible environments, all the new like characters and stuff that were added from Super, it's just like such a big game. And on top of that, they did things that I did not expect. Now we all know that the Budokai Tenkaichi series is iconic for its massive roster, and I'm going to be honest with you, I set my expectations really low. For one, I did not expect to get GT or Dragon Ball characters or even movie characters in the base game. And that's just because like of just how the game starts. Of course, I was like, well, they're gonna want to sell DLC. We obviously know that Superhero DLC and Daima DLC is on the way, so I was just kind of thinking ahead of that. But no, they actually really put that stuff in the game. And even while the game has been releasing, they've been like listening to fan feedback on like some of the skill animations and model changes, and it sounds like they're really paving this game to be one of the best Dragon Ball games of all time. And hey, what can I say? Sales talks, like the sales talk for themselves. I mean, like you see how it's doing on Steam. It's probably like the most pre-ordered game in the Dragon Ball series of all time. Definitely the most I don't even know about like probably, it definitely is. But yeah, we're all just waiting in anticipation for this game. And I don't know, like I just feel like it's going to just change the way we see Dragon Ball games like going for like Sparking Zero is gonna be just such a stacked game, not only for like just the casual gamer, but me personally, I'm just really looking forward to like just making content. And oh my god, the modding community, I cannot wait to see what the modding community for Sparking Zero is gonna look like. It's already was crazy on Tenkaichi 3. We've already had like just great mods like the Budokai Tenkaichi 4 mod and whatnot, but like, you know, seeing all of like the crazy stuff with Unreal Engine 5 assets, it's just gonna be on a whole nother level, dude. I'm just so excited for that. And just not to mention like all like the cool little like what ifs and the custom story mode. Like it just feels like they're future proofing the hell out of this game. So maybe like in the next 10 years it might still be getting content like on some Xenoverse stuff, and we'll be excited for Xenoverse 3 if that ever comes out before I'm a bag of bones. But yeah, these next two projects that we're going to be seeing the like results of, all the hardworking and talented people behind it, we're going to be seeing the results of those within the next week or so. It's been a good time to be a Dragon Ball fan. I feel like, you know, Dragon Ball is finally going to be back, but for how long, I'm not so sure. So I'm just going to briefly talk about this. The uncertainty of Dragon Ball's future is interesting, considering how stingy they have been on releasing manga content outside the video games. I think it's safe to assume that they cannot adapt that stuff until it gets a proper anime adaptation. And I don't know what Toei is waiting on. I guess they're waiting for the manga to end so they can kind of do it like a seasonal anime kind of thing for the Moro and Granola arcs. And we've seen how like Dragon Ball's manga is going. Not that I'm saying I want Toyotaro to rush anything. I know the death of Toriyama has probably had like a huge impact on his work ethic, and I hope he takes all the time that he needs to, you know, bounce back and truly make something great. But what I'm like kind of not concerned about, but at the same time am concerned about, is how are we going to end Dragon Ball Super? Because Dragon Ball Super, at the time I'm recording this anyway, has gone on for almost 10 years now. That's basically as long as like the original Dragon Ball run from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z way back in the 80s and early 90s. So how are we going to end this? Are we going to end it at Black Frieza? Is it going to be like ongoing? Are we going to go past the end of Z and see what the potential in that holds? Are we just going to stop Dragon Ball completely? No more movies, no more shows, and like, you know, maybe the occasional game once in a while. But I feel like they're not going to do that, because Dragon Ball as a franchise is simply just too big for them to stop. Even when Toriyama stopped working on Dragon Ball back in the early 90s, Toei still tried with Dragon Ball GT, and while I'd say they definitely failed at that, you know, it definitely didn't stop them from trying. And of course, the games and the dub kept the series momentum continuing in the West, and especially with Dragon Ball Kai, they were easily able to transition those fans into the Super stuff. But as for what's next, I'm not really sure. Honestly, after the Black Frieza saga, I don't know if I would want Dragon Ball to continue per se. I mean, like I said, it's probably my favorite franchise of all time, but I wouldn't want Dragon Ball to kind of be on some like comic book stuff and just keep going and going and going and jumping the shark and breaking the limits and yada yada yada. And Dragon Ball Super is that for some people, I get that, but I feel like now that, you know, Toriyama is no longer with us, I feel like there's like no real reason to keep like the main story going. Like I said, I don't mind like side materials, them showing up in like other crossovers, or again, the games. I love Dragon Ball games. I'm gonna keep playing Dragon Ball games probably as long as I live. But as for the ongoing plot, I'm not sure what they could come up with, even if they should do anything. Now, is a reboot an option? Do people even like reboot mangas? I mean, I would be open to it, but I would like to see who's behind it and everything. And, you know, they've tried like, you know, kind of doing that with like some of the movies and whatnot, but it all kind of goes back to the uncertainty, especially with like who's holding the rights now, and the whole like Capsule Corp situation, and like the fact that like, you know, a lot of newer Dragon Ball stuff is relying so heavily on nostalgia to the point where they had to bring back like Broly and Cell and Black Frieza, and like even like Daima is like bringing back a lot of elements from the Buu saga and GT. I'm wondering now, how long can they ride this out before people go, all right, enough is enough. I'm like, you know, kind of emotionally uninvested in the franchise. And while I'm not feeling that yet, I feel like after this kind of new rush of content, we can be kind of going into that phase pretty soon. And again, if you're still excited for whatever comes after Daima, or even after that, that's perfectly fine. I mean, if they like show Gogeta or something, I'll gladly shut up and watch it. I'm gonna watch whatever they make regardless, just because like I'm a mega fan. I consume this shit daily, like regardless of what it is. So yeah, but that's just kind of like the negative Nancy in me. Don't like take what I'm saying too seriously. I'm just kind of ranting off the top of my head. But yeah, but all in all, right now I'm pretty happy with the state of the franchise. Again, Dragon Ball is always going to be an icon in the anime and manga industry. There's always going to be new stuff happening for, regardless of what's going on behind the scenes. But I just wanted to use this video as a moment to kind of talk to you guys and just kind of have like a time like capsule of just how the fandom was at, you know, October 2024, right before Sparking Zero, right before Dragon Ball Daima, and before we see the future of Dragon Ball. So if you watched this far, I just wanted to, you know, say thank you for just kind of, you know, just rocking with me, listening to me rant for a bit, and let's just enjoy the calm before the storm. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. By the way, any of y'all can catch this Fate and Spark in Zero Discord and PSN in the description, nigga.